Awesome. So just to recap again, everybody, we have Arkatect with us today. Super exciting. Musician, streamer, does all kinds of really cool stuff. Plays awesome indie games that are like, you know, just kind of like a little interesting, a little complicated, a little abstract, and it's just like neat, good stuff. So welcome, man. Great background, by the way, today. That's cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is from a project that I'm kind of working on, which we can talk about in a little bit, I guess. But yeah, no, happy to be here. Super cool to chat with you directly. And thanks for hyping me up. I think you've
man,
built
absolutely.
me up a lot.
Yeah, I've been excited to, to have you on. This is gonna be so cool. I feel like at this point, I probably saw your first, a music stream that you'd done maybe like at this point, like a year ago. And it was awesome, like super cool, just, chill stuff.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of a lot of work. So a lot of the music stuff I end up doing, I don't necessarily stream. I do want to get more into streaming sort of my process and stuff like that, but it's so much to kind of get going and get set up to stream music versus just flipping on something and making something quickly when I feel inspired like that, right? So
totally.
Yeah, definitely want to get more into the streaming aspect of the music stuff, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Learning how to use new gear, just kind of learning music theory, right? Because I consider myself sort of an amateur in that way. I know you kind of built me up, but yeah,
well, it doesn't come across amateur. It just comes across as like really good, cool stuff from someone who actually, really definitely knows his way around them, So even though you may be exploring, there's like a certain adeptness beyond the regular person that when you're watching it is just like, it's a cool thing to watch, And like people always talk about like, I guess like genuineness on Twitch. And what's cool is that like, your exploration of music while it's going, like, it feels like just good like that, So it's good, entertaining stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of music streamers on Twitch, right? DJs and pianists and guitar players. Like there's a bunch of music. There's a whole category for it, right? And there's thousands and thousands of streamers. And a lot of it is people who are really proficient, and it's awesome to see somebody kind of practice their craft, or you can make song requests and they'll play it. But I think there's some middle ground of content I think that might be interesting, of me kind of going through the learning process, right? And like you can sort of learn along with me or explore a new device that I'm not familiar with and say, oh, what does this feature do, right? What do these buttons do? Let's kind of go on that journey together. So I think there's something cool there. I just need to kind of put in the work and dedicate the time to actually setting it up to explore that, really. But I think that's something that I was missing, right? I'm looking at Twitch and I'm like, I want to see someone doing something new and cool that they haven't done, and go on that journey with them. So yeah, might be interesting.
Dude, and you're totally right, because people like, like a lot of times like sometimes the hardest thing is to go like do on something like Twitch stuff that that you're not actually good at yet. Like that's harder than doing the things that you're good at, and people, like it's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's super interesting, and it's good content. And I'm curious, like when you started streaming, was music definitely going to be like, was that the thing that you thought like that's why you were streaming, or was there a different thing that got you into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I didn't really have a goal, right? I mean, I don't even sort of have a strict setup for what I want to stream necessarily. I'm still kind of figuring that out. I mean, even if you look at my channel, the descriptions is sort of, there's multiple categories of stuff that I say I might do. And yeah, I think it's just when I'm sort of in that space where I'm like, oh, here's a really cool, interesting thing. Here's a new game I've never heard of that I want to try that seems like it'd be cool. Here's a fun experience I'm having with friends, like the IRL stuff. My friend came to visit. We're walking around the city. I'm like, oh, it'd be great to share that with other people. Or here's a new music device. I want to learn it. Or I want to set something up and play with it. That might be a fun experience to share. Or here's a new game I've never seen. That might be a fun experience to share. So it's more based on that, which I think is why I end up not streaming that often, because it's the work, and obviously a lot of stuff going on, but also just having that inspiration of this is something that I think would be really good to share. And I don't know, people want to just watch me kind of play Destiny over and over again for hours. Like there's enough streamers that do that,
different stuff,
that get really into it. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. And what you mentioned before is something I was about to also bring up, because it's like, it had a little bit of an impact on me. One of the cool streams that I saw you do that really like mattered to me was like, not that they don't all matter, but like this one like kind of really extra struck a chord, was like you were saying, the days that you did maybe a couple days where you were walking around, I think San Francisco, and just walking around the street. And I was like, this is so cool. This is actually something that I want to do. And I was like kind of really inspired by it. And it also impacted some of my decisions with some tech purchasing too. Nothing like big, nothing serious, but like I was looking at phones, and that made the difference for me at the time to say, hey, I want to go make sure that I have a legit 5G phone, because I want to be able to do some walking around streams like you did. So, you know, you were just like walking around San Fran, and without getting into too many details, because I don't know if it's like anything like problematic, but you were like on some transit where you guys were moving around a little bit, and that was like crazy interesting, you know, where there were some other people around, and that was just like so neat.
Yeah, so yeah, I had a couple of people visiting me. I lived near San Francisco, and we're kind of walking around, and it was cool because I got to be a kind of tour guide for my friend who was here, right? And go on some adventures. And we're in my friend's car, and we're going around and on the train and going to different spots. I mean, we spent like 9 hours one day just walking across the whole city and checking stuff out. And again, it's that kind of, oh, here's some new stuff, some place I haven't been in a while that I'm sort of discovering, but also I know the city well, right? And I can kind of be that tour guide. And it's harder to motivate myself to go out, I think, and do that on my own and say, hey, I know this area, let me just, for the viewers, kind of walk around and do stuff. But for my friend who was here, and I think we had a good dynamic going, but for my friend who's visiting, it's a lot easier to be like, I'm going to show my friend around, but also kind of stream it. And it gives
like show everybody
me a reason
around
to go and do cool stuff too, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Went so well. I did some walks around Brooklyn. And like I was saying, like definitely like directly inspired. So from
I saw one where you were kind of checking out some pizza spot that you liked.
Oh yeah,
that you were streaming. Yeah,
yeah.
And I was like,
totally.
well, see, now I know if I'm ever in New York again,
go.
I know where to go.
And you know, it's funny. I was just there the last 2 days, so it was 2 days in a row. So it was good. I brought a bunch of buddies. We played a bunch of. You ever play bocce?
Once as like a part of a like middle school event thing. It was not anything professional.
Yeah, well, it's a fun like lawn game, and it's like so many different lawn games. It's one of the good parts about it is it's sort of goofy. You can sort of joke around about it because it's, you know, just throwing some balls around, and it's just kind of a good time. Yeah, totally. So we got kind of trash in Prospect Park, had a good time, and then, you know, once you've been playing lawn games and got kind of wasted in the park, what are you gonna do but go eat pizza and kind of think about passing out?
Absolutely.
Although we didn't pass out, we went back out to the bars, so that was good too.
Yeah, cool. So how long have you been in New York?
So I grew up in North Central Jersey, so I've kind of always been in the region. Jersey's kind of split in half. So like the north half associates with New York City, the south half with Philly. So I've never been too far. I've been in Brooklyn, let's say, I don't know, 7-8 years. I did a little bit of, like I was here for a hot minute, and then I had a special opportunity to have some good housing that was unusual for me to get. For 2 years. I did 2 years in Manhattan that way, and then came back out to, and I'm over in the Crown Heights neighborhood, which is kind of like a fun neighborhood to run around. So yeah,
cool. So you've been in New York pretty much the whole time.
yeah, totally the whole time, which is like
cool.
way easier because, like, you know, I'm sure you know from spending time in San Francisco, obviously, like some of these markets that are like so fucking expensive, it's like you're easier if you've just been there and never known it like cheaper, and you just like suffer like without knowing, as opposed to sticker shock.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, I've been kind of in or near big cities my whole life, so definitely, know what you mean.
Yeah, totally, man. So, quick question: Are you thinking that you're going to be releasing any music at some point, or are you just still kind of creating?
So that kind of brings me to what's in my background here is a project I've been working on. So I'm doing this kind of sort of project / challenge where I'm challenging myself to every day for 30 days create a new short piece of music based on a piece of like video game music based on a different environment that you might find in a video game. Right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have the kind of list of environments. So it's things, some are more specific and some are more vague. So the ones I've done so far are like grass, water, fire, like those types of environments you might find in a game. And then the more specific ones are like town, amusement park, Wild West, Casino, like those ones I think are, I haven't gotten to some of those, and I think those will be a bit more difficult and challenging, but to just as kind of an exercise more to force myself to think outside the box a little bit, and focus my music instead of just making whatever feels interesting, focus it on a particular, like I want to make a thing that sounds like this type of environment. And video game music in some ways is easier, in some ways harder, but to kind of have a tune that can sort of repeat over time, right? A little vignette almost of what that might sound like. So I'm partway through that. I'm pretty early on. Today's day 6, and I've done a couple little bonus ones in between. Like I did one that I was like, oh, this could be like a save menu music, right? When you go to save your game, that little short kind of beat that plays in the background. So a couple bonus ones as well will be thrown in there, but at the end of the 30 days, I'm just going to release that on YouTube. I'm also making each one a different
be so awesome,
sort of,
man.
Yeah, each one I have a different little graphic, which I've done a few of the audio spectrum and different, so it kind of evokes that feeling as well in the graphics. So yeah, at the end of 30 days, I'll release that. So that should be coming out like beginning of August sometime.
That's gonna be super cool if you do it. If you do the release like that. I don't know. Do you ever listen to like lo-fi beat stuff where they do like different like looping animations and stuff?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you could. I feel like a lot of those channels sometimes they even like take their walks, like walking around cities, and set it to that. So another idea because someone who already videos yourself walking around cities always an option.
Yeah, that
too.
Was my thought. It was like I want to put this on YouTube, right? Because I think SoundCloud is sort of saturated with stuff like that, and I think releasing it on YouTube, it can be sort of contained as this is the project, and I have a little playlist and stuff. But yeah, I was thinking if I'm doing that, I have to have some sort of visual component, and just kind of putting just the audio spectrum stuff on it is a bit boring. So kind of spicing that up and having each one be formatted a little bit different. But yeah, it was like it'd be great if I had some video or something to evoke those. That'd be a bigger project to go out and film stuff for each one. I'd have to find a forest and a desert and a casino and all that. But yeah, I think what I've done this time is a fun experiment, and then maybe if I do a similar challenge again, I was talking to a friend of mine, I was like, what would be interesting to do is like a sort of time of day one, kind of like what they've done with the new Animal Crossing, right, where take one environment or a town and at midnight, at twilight, at noontime, at sunrise, right, and try and do a similar theme but at different times of day. So that one I think would be a little bit easier to shoot. I can go to the same spot, shoot stuff at different times. So yeah, maybe something like that for next time. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see how this one goes.
And you know what else is interesting? You think about sometimes the way that you're plotting it out to do. Like I used to be over in publishing. I did 10 years over at Penguin Random House back in the day. So like in like writing world, you always hear about like, not just hear about, but people use all the time prompts for their exercises. And it's crazy. It's like almost the exact same thing where it's like, oh right, you have a prompt ready to go, and that's going to drive your creation process for that day. Yeah,
or kind of like artists, if you're doing like line drawing and stuff, right? You say, here's a figure, try to get the essence of the figure and draw it in 60 seconds or something, right? Like give yourself really quick sort of exercises. Yeah, that's kind of how I've been trying to approach it, is I'm not trying to create a masterpiece in a day. It's just kind of a thing to do each day to get me constantly thinking about it. And I've been thinking about it each day, right? Even when I'm not writing, I'm like, oh, desert, what might that sound like? I'm listening to other similar stuff, the other desert music from games, as I kind of get a feel for it, so that if someday I am like, oh, I'd like to create a piece that sounds like this, I have a little bit more kind of ammo for that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's gonna be. I can't wait for the release for that, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, what I might do is in your Discord, I can post a couple of the ones I've done already as just a little preview.
Yeah, 100%. Please do. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome content. I would love. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great spot because people can come back to it and check it out. There's definitely a little music section over there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll put a couple in there as a little preview for anyone who's in the
Anybody
Discord.
who's watching, if you want to join the Discord, there's a link below. It's not a particularly big Discord, but it's good and it's fun, and come hang with us. It's good. So there's something else actually that you created that I haven't told you I was going to talk about.
Okay.
But I thought it would be kind of a fun little surprise. Maybe I could show everybody because some of the imagery was already out there on the interwebs. And I'm like, check
Very
this out.
well.
This
Okay.
thing that
Yeah,
this
I'm
guy did
curious to
is
see what
so
this is.
cool. Do you know what I'm going to show everybody?
I have no idea.
All right, this was really cool. You did some cosplay
Oh yeah,
as
I
Journey.
did.
And I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, look at this. Look at this guy cosplaying from the video game Journey back in the day. And I just thought that this was the coolest because that was such a great game. I don't know if any of you guys know Journey. It was also definitely a game where music mattered and ambiance mattered, and it just like it flowed, and it was such a beautiful game. And look at that, man. I just thought that was the coolest. So I just thought I'd show everybody. I hope that was okay.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate you showing that off. No, it was a lot of fun. My wife helped me a ton with that. So yeah, we used it for Halloween and for when I went to PAX East back in Boston.
Oh,
kind of
fun.
there. I actually ran into another Journey cosplayer, right? And we're kind of flapping our arms and kind of hanging out together. And I actually, when I wore it for real, I had red shoes on that matched a little bit better with than just the tennis shoes. But no, that was a lot of fun. A really cool project. Again, I found some templates online and stuff, and then put my own little spin on it. But like I said, my wife helped a ton with that, at the sewing machine and all that, which I am not proficient in at all. So
Neither am I.
huge shout out to her for helping.
I have some costume ideas myself.
fun
I'm kind of like, oh gosh, sewing, oh no.
It was a super fun project. And yeah, I'd love to do more of that stuff too, but obviously the convention scenes aren't really the same as they used to be. And,
yeah, but they'll all be coming back. They'll come back.
Yeah, no, totally. There's some stuff going on, so
Looks
yeah, it
like,
might be fun.
Looks like Creative Queen approves. She gives her stamp of
yeah.
approval, and I know she does a bunch of different creative stuff. So thanks, CQ. She just chimed in over in chat over there. She thought it was neat.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm glad people think that's cool and interesting. Yeah,
man. So I also want to ask you, like, kind of where does your background in terms of like the games that you like and the games that you choose when you play games on stream, where does that come from? Because it's a really unique set of offerings that are very heavily slanted towards, I've noticed, like really cool, interesting indie games, and I just think it's always neat. So where does that come from? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know exactly. So I mean, I've been playing video games since basically I was born, right? I was like always obsessed with computers and computer games and stuff like that. When I was just a year and a half old, my dad wrote a C program to teach me the alphabet. And ever since then, I've been sort of interacting with computers, right, my whole life. And so, yeah, then it came to video games and playing old kind of games from smaller companies, stuff like, well, obviously like Doom and stuff when I was sort of old enough or older enough to play shooters and stuff like that.
Man,
but
old school Doom,
kind of older obscure games like Hexagon, I think it was called, and those old FMV games from the 90s like Wingnuts and Lodestar, Command and Conquer, right? A lot of the strategy games, because that was something that my dad and kind of my family, we would play together. So like StarCraft, Command and Conquer, those sorts of things. So I think that's where some of my kind of strategy and analytical stuff, because that was something that was a bit active and got me thinking, but that I could also play with my family. So yeah, I don't know, that's kind of, and then I got into stuff like I found out about NetHack and Rogue and Mines of Moria, those kind of old ASCII based roguelike games, that sort of got me into some of that stuff. So I just like games with interesting systems and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I will play just shooters all day. Like, it's fun. It's a good stress relief. But yeah, those strategy games, puzzle-ish games that get you thinking. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, and yeah, I just kind of always taken a liking to it, I guess.
And to go all the way back to like those first couple that you mentioned, just because I always thought it was kind of funny from at least my experience. I don't know if you had the same experience, but I feel like way back when those games were coming out at first, like we're talking decades ago, some of the like most intense strategic maneuvering that you had to do was actually just figuring out how the hell to get the game to play.
Yeah, yes, that is also true. A lot of troubleshooting. I mean, that was almost like a game in itself, right? Those old DOS games where it's not installed properly. You have to be like manually installing drivers just to get the keyboard to work properly or get the thing to run.
Or contacting the company because like they were gonna come mail you some new discs for your update.
Right. Yeah, totally. No, that was yeah. So I mean, that's when I first started playing games, right? It was all command line based. It was like there was no, well, there was Windows, but you had to play in DOS mode because they were DOS games. So stuff like Red Tide and all those like older kind of DOS games, yeah, you'd have to be manually navigating folders. And so I'm like 4 and 5 years old. I had to kind of get used to that. So I think that sort of command line type stuff like NetHack and Rogue and those older ASCII based games.
You're like an 8-year-old. You're like, what's a CD-ROM driver and how do I make this work because my computer will not take this game?
Right, totally. Yeah, those old CD games. Yeah, with that, it's mostly videos because it's all live action stuff. Or stuff came on 10 floppies or whatever. Yeah.
Crazy. So CQ is chiming in also because she looks like she's got some cosplay going on. She does Catwoman. That's pretty cool. That's actually super cool. But right. She mentioned she's got the blue hair now. So yeah, Catwoman cosplay is awesome. That's great.
I feel like there's enough variants. I was just gonna say I feel like there's enough variants of Catwoman throughout different permutations and different comic series and stuff. You can make the blue hair work somehow.
Oh yeah. So anyhow, I'm super excited for you to bring the love of indie, like sort of like, you know, kind of techie games to now mess around with some pit people. Do you know what a pit person is? Have you played this game before?
I don't, so I've not played it. So I did play Castle Crashers, right, which was one of their previous games. And Alien Hominid was their older thing. It was on Newgrounds back in the day, and then they turned into kind of a full game. But yeah, so I played a couple of their other stuff, but this is sort of a turn-based strategy thing, I gather, and I've definitely not played it, so I don't know what a pit person is yet. I'm excited to find out. It says that we can do some
questing, so I'm kind of excited for that.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. So now in terms of like what a pit person is though, so when I grew up there, and I'm not going to say exactly where because I want to be polite, but there was a section of central New Jersey that affectionately would refer to themselves as dirtbags, and they'd be like, that's who we are. Like that was like their like local identity. At least like the teens and 20-somethings who like lived there, like they sort of thought of themselves as like metalhead dirtbags. And that, so whenever I think of like pit people, I'm like, is that what a pit person is?
Well, based on what I know about their games and their art style and their particular humor, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't too far off.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because like I was saying earlier, I ain't play Castle Crashers, so I don't know, but yeah, this will be good, man.
Crazy. You got to get on that. It's one of the favorite sort of hack and slash platformer things of all time. I've played it dozens and dozens of times, and you unlock new characters as you go on, so it's worth multiple playthroughs. Can't recommend it enough if you want like a great little co-op hack and slash thing.
I got it. I got the combo. I got the little package, so I'll definitely be playing it. Very cool. Let me reset my stream info real quick because I'm going to take us from just chatting into pit people. And then if it's cool with you, we'll jump into the game. That works?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome. Let me get pit people up here. Pit people. Hey, I'm Matt, streaming to you as always from Brooklyn.